The land of Palestine clenches great religious significance for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam followers. Throughout history, it has been inhabited by various Semitic groups. It was once governed by kingdoms like Israel, Judah, and Judaea. This video will show you how the land of Palestine came to be and what it's like now. Palestine is a small land area in the Middle East with a rich history. It has seen a lot of conflicts and fights over land because it's essential to many religions and sits in a vital spot between Africa and Asia. People from the Arab community who live there are called Palestinians. But have you ever wondered where Palestine's name came from? Well, the name Palestine comes from a group called the Philistines, who weren't originally from the area but lived near the Aegean Sea and were connected to the ancient Greeks. They used to live in what is now the Gaza Strip and Israel, but disappeared long ago. After the Romans defeated the Jewish rebellion, they decided to call the area Palestine, to spite the Jewish people and disconnect the land from its Jewish roots. This name stuck around even after the Roman Empire fell. When Muslim armies took over the area, they changed the name to Philistine. Despite all these changes, the name Palestine remained in use over centuries, even during the Crusaders. Over the years, this land has been home to diverse groups of people from various religions, like Jews, Muslims, and Christians, each believing they have a special connection to the region. Long ago, according to stories in the Hebrew Bible, the ancient Israelites established kingdoms known as Israel and Judah in this area under the rule of King David and his descendants around 1000 BC. They were not alone. Other groups, like the Philistines, shared the land too. As time passed, Palestine saw the rise and fall of mighty empires like the Babylonians, Persians, and Romans who controlled the region. In 637 AD, Muslim rule began after the Rashidun Caliphate captured Jerusalem, only a few years after the death of Prophet Muhammad. The Crusades wanted to stop Islam from spreading, take back the Holy Land in the eastern Mediterranean, and conquer places where people followed pagan beliefs. This brought clashes between Western European Christian armies and Muslims over control of holy sites. From 1517 to 1917, the Ottoman Empire, an influential Islamic empire that ruled for more than 600 years, held sway in Palestine. The Sultan, the empire's top leader, had immense authority over his people despite being seen as a threat by some in the Western world. However, many historians recognize the Ottomans for bringing stability and significantly contributing to the region's art, science, religion, and culture. Following World War I, the British took control of Palestine during the war between countries like Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, which fought against Great Britain, the United States, and others. During World War I, Britain promised different things to the Arabs and Jews in Palestine, also known as the Balfour Declaration, which said they supported creating a homeland for Jewish people in Palestine. But before this declaration, Britain had already told the Arabs they could have Palestine to govern independently. They also promised the French government that Palestine would be looked after by an international group. At that time, the Ottoman Empire still controlled most of Palestine. Despite these conflicting promises, the British thought ensuring they won the war was necessary. And their plan worked. Britain and France won against the Central Powers in 1918. But once the war was over, Britain had to deal with the consequences of the conflicting assurances they had made to different groups in Palestine. The League of Nations, formed to prevent conflicts after World War I, granted Britain a mandate over Palestine in 1923. This mandate included provisions for establishing a Jewish national homeland within Palestine. In April 1936, Palestinians decided to stand up against British rule. A group in Nablus asked Palestinians to stop working, paying taxes, and buying Jewish products to protest against British control and increasing Jewish immigration. Before that, there was a fight near Tulkarem where 2 Jews were killed by Palestinians, causing more problems between Jews and Palestinians. Later, different local groups joined to form the Arab Higher Committee, led by Amin Husseini, to represent Palestinian interests under British rule. Many Palestinian people, both from cities and the countryside, men and women, came together in this movement. They also received support from places like Cairo, Beirut, and Damascus. The British reacted strongly by arresting leaders and demolishing homes. Even though the Arab leaders convinced Palestinians to end the strike in November 1936 with promises from the British, these promises were not kept. This strike laid the groundwork for the Great Arab Revolt from 1936 to 1939, a time of solid resistance against British control, which was met with forceful repression. During the period in question, the majority of the Palestinian population were primarily farmers, which played a crucial role in sustaining the strike, as some Palestinians claim. This was because being farmers gave them self-sufficiency regarding food and essential supplies. At the same time, Palestinian peasants became key figures in the resistance movement. The strike faced severe repression by British forces. The British government started apprehending individuals suspected of involvement in the movement. It carried out punitive acts such as demolishing homes. Simultaneously, the British authorities collaborated with and trained Zionist paramilitary groups like the well-known Haganah to suppress Palestinian dissent. In November 1936, the Higher Committee terminated the strike following encouragement from regional Arab leaders in Jordan, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia, who advised Palestinians to trust that the United Kingdom would meet their demands that ultimately went unmet. In 1947, after Britain ruled Palestine for more than 20 years, the United Nations suggested splitting up Palestine into two parts, one for the Jewish people to have their own country and one for the Arab people to have theirs. They also said Jerusalem should be a special zone that belonged to everyone. This was after the British had been in charge for over 20 years. While many Jewish leaders liked this idea, a lot of Palestinian Arabs didn't. Some had been fighting against the British and Jews in the area since the 1920s. They thought they should get more land because they were most of the population. So, they started making volunteer armies in different parts of Palestine. Basically, the plan was to divide up Palestine, give the Jewish people their own country, the Arab people theirs, and make Jerusalem a special shared place. However, not everyone was happy, leading to tensions and conflicts between the two groups. Many Palestinian Arabs had to leave their homes, and Jordan and Egypt looked after the areas meant for the Arab state. When Israel won the 1967 war, they took over those places like the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem, which became part of Israel. Back in June 1982, Israel went to Lebanon to get rid of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, a group that would help Palestinians govern themselves and make sure that Palestinian refugees could return to their homeland. They made a deal to stop fighting, and the PLO soldiers left Beirut and went to nearby countries. But even though they promised the Palestinian refugees left there would be safe, a terrible massacre happened in the Sabra and Shatila camps. Then, in September 1983, a big meeting called the International Conference on the Question of Palestine talked about some essential things like saying no to Israeli settlements and changes in Jerusalem, respecting the right of all countries in the area to have secure borders, and supporting the Palestinian people's rights. In 1987, a significant protest against Israeli control started in Palestinian areas, and a lot of innocent Palestinian people got hurt or killed because of the strict actions of Israeli forces. Finally, in 1988, leaders meeting in Algiers declared that the state of Palestine was now officially a thing. In 1991, there was a peace conference in Madrid where they tried to work out peaceful solutions through direct talks. They focused on two main things: discussions between Israel and the Arab states and talks between Israel and the Palestinians. They based their discussions on specific resolutions from the United Nations. They also discussed more significant regional issues like the environment, arms control, refugees, water, and the economy. Eventually, Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, recognized each other's existence, working towards creating their own independent country. Then, in 1993, they signed an agreement known as the Oslo Accord, which led to some Israeli forces leaving certain areas, elections being held for Palestinian leaders, some prisoners being freed, and the establishment of a working system for Palestinian self-rule. The United Nations played a big part in ensuring everything was fair and helped with international support. However, there were still some issues that they couldn't figure out in later talks in 2000 and 2001. From 2000 up to now, many important events have happened between Israel and Palestine. It started with Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon's visit to a holy site in Jerusalem, which led to a period of unrest called the Second Intifada. Israel then built a wall separating the West Bank from Palestinian areas, which was said to be against international law. Over the years, there have been talks about creating two separate states for Israel and Palestine. However, conflicts and disagreements continued, including Hamas taking over Gaza and Israel imposing a blockade. Efforts to find peace through negotiations faced obstacles like settlement and Palestinian bids for statehood. Recent years saw shifts in the political landscape, like the U.S. recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital and brokering deals for peace between Israel and some Arab countries. The UN also looked into the legality of Israel's occupation since 1967. In some parts of the Middle East, a dispute exists over who should control specific land areas. Some Israelis are moving into these areas, which most people believe should be controlled by the Palestinians. This has caused a lot of disagreement and fighting. Many groups around the world say these Israeli settlements are against the law. The two groups' borders are unclear, which adds to the conflict. In 2017, a Palestinian group called Hamas suggested creating a country for Palestinians based on borders set in 1967, with Jerusalem as its capital. However, they didn't want to recognize Israel as a country, so Israel said no to the plan. Tensions rose in 2018 when the U.S. moved its embassy to Jerusalem, supporting Israel's claim to the city. This led to protests by Palestinians, met with force by Israeli troops, resulting in many deaths. Things got worse in 2023 when Hamas attacked Israel, kidnapping many people and killing over 1,000 Israelis, including innocent civilians. This made the Israeli Prime Minister declare war. In response, Israel attacked Gaza, causing many Palestinian deaths, including civilians. When Israel tries to make things safe in Gaza using military force, it's essential they also work on making peace with the Palestinians. Even though many Israelis are against this idea, it's crucial to understand that finding a resolution to the conflict is vital for their long-term security, more than just using military methods. For the Palestinian Authority, they should see that reaching a resolution is the best way to gain support from their own people and others who can help them achieve sovereignty. Thinking of the resolution as a path to stability and cooperation could benefit everyone involved. Peace in Palestine is not only crucial for the safety and well-being of both Israelis and Palestinians, but also for fostering stability, cooperation, and a brighter future for the entire region. By prioritizing efforts towards peace and resolving the conflict diplomatically, both parties can work together towards a more peaceful and prosperous coexistence. This benefits the present generation and sets the foundation for a more harmonious and secure future for generations to come.